This is the Art Museum, the home of treasures of art, loved by all the world over. And these are the treasures of fashions, loved by women the world over. One of these treasures is cashmere, cashmere sweaters, each a work of art in their own, meant to be, as Keats has said, a thing of beauty is a joy forever. The beautiful beginning of your cashmere sweater is in the talented hands of the artist designer. Each sweater is styled to enhance the luxurious quality of cashmere. The design of the sweater is only begun. A team of management, production, and sales reviews the styles for the coming season. Their experience and talents combine to bring you a sweater of superb quality and flattering beauty. But the real beginning of cashmere is found in the Himalaya mountains, in the unique and rare fleece of the cashmere goat. These are the Himalayas, the rooftops of the world. Here, herds of cashmere goats make their home in the almost inaccessible wilderness. They are protected from the bitter cold by an outer growth of coarse, shaggy hair, under which lies the soft, warm, silky down, and only this, the highest grade, is used to produce Dalton cashmere yarn. A cashmere goat yields only 2 to 4 ounces of this incomparable fleece every year. The raw cashmere is transported by primitive methods over many miles to the market, where preliminary sorting, a slow hand process, removes some of the embedded coarser fibers and foreign substances. The fleece is sorted. Then the cashmere is baled and shipped to the United States. Once in the United States, the cashmere is again carefully graded according to color, texture, and quality. Then comes the pre-scouring process that cleans the cashmere and removes some of the natural oil. This is raw cashmere just before being spun into yarn. After the yarn is spun, it is sent to the Dalton of America laboratory, where quality control tests guarantee the highest standards. The textile engineer studies the structure of a strand of natural undyed yarn. The diameter and color determine whether the lot is of the correct grade. Oil has been added to the yarn in spinning, and this spinning oil content must be carefully checked. Too little oil and the strand would fuzz. Too much spinning oil would interfere with the dyeing process. The yarn is soaked in a solvent which absorbs the oil. When heated, the solvent evaporates and leaves a residue of oil. The container of oil is weighed and compared to the weight of the empty container. The percentage of the oil content of the yarn is then determined and must agree with Dalton standards. After dyeing and moth-proofing, the yarn is tested for strength. A measured number of strands of cashmere yarn are pulled apart. The point of breakage is recorded and must agree with a predetermined standard to ensure strength in the knitting process and wearability in the finished sweater. The strands are also examined for evenness to minimize irregularities in the knitted fabric. Yarn must be twisted to give it strength and elasticity, but the number of turns must be checked to Dalton's specification, as too much twist would lock in the fibers that create the prized softness of cashmere sweaters. The moth-proofed cashmere yarn comes to Dalton in large loops called skeins. It is wound first onto spools to facilitate handling. Then the yarn is drawn through a special emulsion, holding the fibers perfectly in place during the knitting process. The emulsified yarn is wound onto a cone ready for production. Your cashmere sweater begins in the knitting machine flat section. These special knitting machines knit the body waistband and sleeve wristbands of the sweater in strips, separated by knitted bands of white cotton yarn. In the separating department, one separator thread is pulled out by skillful hands. This process prepares the wristbands and waistband for the topping department. Here in the topping department, the wrist and waistbands are precisely mounted on the topping or transfer bars, which have needles to match those on the knitting machine. This must be done with extreme care so that each stitch or loop is exactly placed and no stitches are dropped. A slow and delicate process, it is typical of the loving patience that knits quality into each Dalton sweater. When the stitches are in place, the separator course that divided the pieces is unraveled. Now the bands are ready for the full fashioning knitting machines, which make the body and sleeves of the sweater. First, the knitter crosses the needles to ensure proper spacing so that the band is exactly in the center of the knitting head. The top band is hooked up to prepare for the start of the body of a cardigan. Course by course, the sweater takes form. This machine has been set to stop at certain points so that the knitter can make any adjustment necessary. Now the adjustment for the V-neck. The armhole is being formed. Every time the machine dips, it reduces the width of the garment by 4 stitches, shaping and forming the full-fashioned detail. From a basic sweater, we turn now to an intarsia sweater, that is, one in which a design or pattern is knit right into the sweater. The superintendent of the knitting department himself counts the stitches and records the figures. This information is transferred to a chain control. This is the brain of the machine, which guides the complete operation. It controls the number of knitted courses, knitted loop by loop. It guides the full fashioning process. In other words, knit to fit, knit to follow the natural, flattering contour form of the body. The chain then stops the machine to allow the knitter to set the yarn for the intarsia leaf pattern. Then the machine continues knitting the white yarn of the leaf pattern together with the blue yarn of the background to create the body of a sweater while being full-fashioned to shape at the same time. The knitting superintendent confers with the president for the final approval before the production run. The hand operation section of the machine department knits the details of the sweater. Only by hand control can these designer details be made. The knitter must transfer loops or stitches to shape the knitted piece. Buttonhole pieces and collar fashion detail are being made. These are neckline ties. And now a sailor collar takes shape. A careful check is made on all parts of the sweater, special attention being paid to make sure the edges are even. After inspection, the individual parts are paired for assembly. In the looping department, the separate parts become a sweater. First, the fronts and backs are placed on the looping machine. Loop for loop, each part is exactly positioned. Extra knitted courses, which have been knitted on only to facilitate handling, are removed. The front and back pieces are joined to form the body. Then the collar pieces are attached. Again, we can see the precise skill and painstaking care with which Dalton sweaters are made. Now, with the collar attached, the sleeves are looped to the full-fashioned body of the sweater. Another lovely cashmere sweater is almost completed. In the handworking department, the finishing touches are applied. Special details, such as the vein on this intarsia leaf, are done by skilled hands. Another feature typical of the superb Dalton quality are the hand-crocheted button loops. Then the sweater is sent to the washing department, where the soap for the washing process is precisely measured. Washing brings up the natural fluff of the yarn by removing the emulsion previously used to hold the fibers together in knitting. This releases the loft in the yarn, the unique softness possessed only by cashmere. Each group of sweaters has a trial washing. This experimental run is to ascertain the amount of time needed to bring to the surface the natural loft and softness of the yarn. At timed intervals, the machine is stopped and the progress of the washing is checked to make sure it has attained the right degree of softness. Color by color, they are all examined closely. Uniform quality is thus established according to the highest standards of Dalton. On the left, magnified, is a cashmere sweater before washing, and on the right, after washing. Notice the increase in loft, how the softness has been released. After washing and drying, the sweaters are turned right side out. Here, the sweaters are being steamed and blocked to their original measurements of size and shape. They are then carefully steam pressed for a perfect finish. A final inspection to make sure no small flaw or defect can mar their beauty. Only the perfect pass this inspection and earn the Dalton label. Beautifully finished, the sweaters are packed with care, ready to ship. Each has its own plastic storage bag. So many women have asked how to wash their cashmere sweaters to best preserve their shape and precious texture. First, thoroughly dissolve a mild soap in cool water close to room temperature. Then gently squeeze the suds through the sweater, handling as little as possible, as rough handling will mat or shrink your sweater. Rinse thoroughly, at least twice, in cool water, again gently squeezing the water out of the sweater. Lay on a towel, and with a paper pattern that you cut to the shape of the sweater before washing, shape to fit. A few finishing touches and your sweater is blocked, ready to dry at room temperature, away from direct sunlight and artificial heat. And now back to the truly glamorous side of cashmere, the wonderful things it does for you. Fashions that are flattering wherever you go, whenever you go. At the theater, they are the star, with you always the leading lady. And for casual wear, the look you love. And to add a happy ending, Dalton completes your wardrobe with skirts to match and ices the fashion cake with shirts of silk. Perfect partners for the ensemble look to cashmere sweaters by Dalton. each a work of art. Treasures in cashmere, capturing to the fullest the art and beauty of cashmere.